interesting topic about those who but that seems magazines, newspapers, there would be an awful lot. Yes.
근데 차까지 또 가야 되잖아. 잠깐만.
This evening to what is the sixth of the annual Rajong-il Lectures in Korean Studies, which have been funded by Professor Rajong-il and his associates, and I'm very pleased to see Professor Ra himself here this evening. Our speaker this evening is Dr. Jung Woo-taek, who is a member of the 19th National Assembly. He's just a few years younger than I am. He was educated in Sungkyunkwan University in Seoul, and then went on to do a PhD in economics in Hawaii. He was first elected to the National Assembly in 1996, and has since then served in various roles and has become a prominent member of the political scene in South Korea. He was Minister of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries under President Kim Dae-jung, and currently he serves as the chair of the National Policy Committee in the National Assembly. Tonight he's going to be talking to us on the transformation of Korea, turning challenges into opportunities. So I'd like to ask you to join me in giving Dr. Chung a warm welcome.
Good evening. It is a great pleasure and honor for me to be here today with you all. I want to thank the University of Cambridge and the Rajong Lecture for organizing this event and giving me the opportunity to speak to you about Korea. I normally do not get the opportunity to address such a diverse and talented group of people in a setting with so much history and traditions. So it is tremendous honor to be here. Okay. Today, I want to talk about the changes happening in Korea, so socially, economically, and politically, where the nation has been, and where it is going, and what it all means. And in the midst of all these changes happening, I want to lay out a vision of what I think Korea and its people must do, make sure it continues on a sustainable path that builds on the progress and achievements made so far, and that ensures a future full of hope, prosperity, and security for all. Over the years, the last half century, Korea's rapid development was driven by rapid structural transformation, in particular industrialization, lifting Korea out of abject poverty, raising living standards, and bringing the kind of affluence and wealth unimaginable 50 years ago. Okay. So, for instance, income per capita grew up from $67 to over $26,000 in the last half century. And early in Korea's development, over 60% of the workers in agriculture-based sectors, while nearly 8% were in manufacturing and 28% in the service industry. Now it is reverse. The service industry accounts for nearly 78% of the workers, while the agricultural and the manufacturing industry account for 22% of the workers. In the narrowest definition, one can say that Korea may be the only country in the world that has achieved the feat of rising from the depths of despair to a hopeful future. Korea's rapid social and economic transformation had a profound impact and changed Korea forever. After struggling to overcome the adversities of poverty, war, and political upheaval, Korea is now poised to become an advanced country and take a larger role in the international community. And the world is only now starting to appreciate Korea beyond its economic achievements, such as its long and storied history, unique culture, and proud tradition. Just the world is wake up to what Korea has to offer. Korea is again in the midst of great change. Unlike in the past, the changes happening now in Korea are more subtle and less visible, but their impacts are just as powerful and lasting. One of the Cambridge's most revered economists, John Maynard Keynes, once wrote, "The day is not far off when the economic problems will be taken the back seat where it belongs, and the arena of the heart and the head will be occupied or reoccupied by our real problems. The problems of life and of human relations, of creation and behavior and religion." I think Keynes' words perfectly capture Korea's economic and social circumstances and goes to the heart of the change happening today. Korea is no longer driven by a singular purpose of achieving economic development. Attaining basic standards of living are no longer enough. Korea and its people must now struggle to address questions such as what is important to me, what makes me happy, and what do I believe in. Let me now share with you about some problems we are facing today. Korea's economic growth rate has been declining for some time now. As a result, Koreans are not seeing the kind of job opportunities and wage growth as before, and many more than ever feel uncertain and pessimistic about their economic prospects and believe that prosperity and a better life for them and their children are beyond their reach. Nearly half of Koreans surveyed in 2013 feel that their children will have less opportunities for social mobility. This perception of growing economic inequality and falling social mobility, whether real or not, has led to sharp social division, pitting the rich against the poor, the old against the young, full-time workers against part-time workers, and urban cities against rural communities. Consequently, economic inequality has become a big social and political issue, creating conflict and tension and worsening social cohesion. Korea's worsening social cohesion is not just being driven by economic factors. It is also being driven by rapid changes in our country's demographics. Korea not only has the fastest aging population, faster than Japan, but also one of the lowest fertility rates in the world. In 12 years, over 20% of population will be over the age of 65. In Korea, you can see this playing out more than ever in the widening gap between younger and older generations. Unable to find good jobs, younger people are feeling disenfranchised and uncertain and cynical about their future. This has led many to struggle in finding their place in Korean society, and the circumstances of the older generation are just as dire. Without adequate pensions and social security, many older people are struggling just to make ends meet. It is disheartening fact, but nearly half of the elderly population is poor. As a result, many older people have to work way beyond the retirement age just to survive. The social and economic consequences of these changes will not appear in a sudden crisis. The financial markets will not collapse, and companies will not go bankrupt like the 1997 Asian financial crisis. Instead, it will be slow-moving, but the consequences will be profound and long-lasting. Korea is not alone in having to address such a complex issue as social inequality, high youth unemployment, and aging population. These are issues that also affect many countries in the world, including Europe and the US. In this respect, it is important for Korea to learn the lessons of countries like the US, Europe, and Japan in how they have dealt with similar social and economic challenges. If Korea continues on the same path without addressing the issues of economic inequality and exclusion and social cohesion, then it risks turning Koreans' pessimism about their economic prospects into reality, making prosperity and a better life for themselves and their children truly beyond their reach. Another critical issue I want to point out. Today, the biggest challenge in Korea, much like the rest of the world economy, is simply job creation. How can you create quality jobs so that incomes and economy can grow. Korea can no longer expect that the kind of high growth that drove the economy in the last half century. And it can no longer rely on the manufacturing-led model of economic development that served it so well in the last 50 years, raising millions out of poverty. Incomes have risen too much amid increased global competition, particularly from fast developing countries like China and India. The emergence of China, in particular, has been both blessing and curse for Korea. The Korean economy has benefited tremendously from trade with China, but at the same time, China is now growing competitor and risk to Korean industry. Whether Korea is able to benefit by rising with growing tide of China or be swept by it will depend on whether we keep Korea's economy competitive and the source of innovation and job creation. Where promising entrepreneurs and small businesses with new ideas and technology can grow and flourish, and in the process create completely new products and industry and capitalize on new markets. In other words, instead of job seekers, we need to promote an economy of job creators. And education reform must be an important part of any effort to promote innovation, growth, and job creation. Korea did a great job at expanding access to primary education early in its development, and then investing in vocational technical schools in the 1970s. This effort contributed greatly to Korea's rapid social and economic transformation. Now, Korea must turn its policy attention to improving the quality of education, not just the quantity. We live in a digital age where the information and knowledge can be easily accessed anywhere. In this environment, it is becoming more evident that it is not what you know, but rather how you use the information and the knowledge. Korea must recognize that its education system must adapt to changing environment. The focus in education must move away from what content to teach or what to memorize, and focus on teaching methodologies that promote innovation and creative thinking. In this regard, education must be able to teach your students not only how to solve problems, but also to think critically and creatively, to raise questions, and to communicate and collaborate with others. Before we can begin to think about improving the quality of education, we must first think about the existing education system in Korea. I firmly believe that the university entrance exam results in both harm and good. This is not argued against the merit of standardized and performance-based tests, but rather to question if this exam system is working in the present context of Korea. The exam was supposed to be a great equalizer, but it has turned out to be the great divider. Compared to today, it was more common 20 or 30 years ago for students from rural provinces to be accepted to top schools in Seoul based on the exam. However, the exam system has become distorted over time. Today, Korean households spend thousands of dollars to spend their kids to private tutoring schools to get an edge for exam. As a result, a large portion of students accepted to top schools are from wealthy households who can afford to pay for the best private tutoring schools. The indirect social and economic effects are even greater, as schools do not teach and students do not learn, while more households fall into debt and financial difficulty. It is circumstances like this that are making Koreans feel that the system is rigged to benefit the few and elite, that access to education is unequal and the social mobility is based more than on one's social and economic background rather than hard work, especially among the younger generation. Countries like the US and Singapore has already started to reinvest and build an education system that is suited for the 21st century and beyond. Korea too must reinvest in its education system to ensure access to best education for all Koreans and to stay ahead in an increasingly competitive world. Economic growth in the future will be more measured, and we can find a new growth model that is driven by innovation and young, promising startups and entrepreneurs to ensure inclusive and sustainable development. We must think about kinds of reforms and policies that can promote innovation and job growth, such as improving the education system, promoting scientific research and R&D through greater collaboration among business, government, and academia, and fostering a business environment where the entrepreneurs can take risks and develop new ideas and products. At the same time, we need proactive policies to address the complex social economic impact of aging population. Aside strengthening Korea's social safety net, one of the ways we can do this is to capitalize on economic opportunities of an aging population by promoting business and services that can benefit, such as healthcare, leisure, and retirement services. We also need to promote lifelong learning for older workers to give them the skills and the tools need to re-enter the labor force in the new post-industrialized economy. And now challenges between government and the people. In the tackling these daunting social and economic challenges, I believe that government must step up and take a leadership role in putting Korea on a more sustainable path. But before the government can lead the charge, it is first repair its credibility with the Korean people and earn their trust that the government can lead and can deliver the kinds of services and policies needed to survive the people. Okay. Yes. As you see, the confidence in government, the confidence in Korean government is nearly half. Nearly that of United Kingdom. Right now, there is growing distrust the government's ability to do its job. There is not a day that goes by without hearing news of some kind of tragic accident where the government could have done more to prevent it, or charges of bribery and corruption involving government officials. To run back the public trust, the government must lead by getting people involved in the policy-making process. The government must do a better job of informing its citizens of public policy issues and getting their feedback. In other words, it must promote citizenry participation. It also must take the lead in resolving social and industrial conflicts and building public consensus on policy matters and upgrading the legal, regulatory, social, and political institutions to support new policies. Good policy making is not only about selecting and designing the right policy interventions. It is also about making sure that policies deliver tangible benefits. Only after it builds a track record of delivering results can the government earn back the people's trust. But ultimately, change can only happen if there is political will and leadership at the highest level. Having the right people and expertise are essential to good policy making. But without long-term political commitment to drive the process, experience shows that the reforms and progress will not be sustainable. Before I conclude, I want to briefly speak about North Korea. I don't want to speculate on current relations between our two countries, but I do want to offer a few ideas about how we can approach the issue of North Korea, more specifically about what South Korea can do to engage North Korea and start working towards peace and better relations, eventually unification one day. I know the huge potential costs and uncertainties surrounding the unification of the Korean Peninsula get a lot of attention, and this is something we have to prepare for if we are serious about unification. But once we get the past short-term impact of a unified peninsula, we start to see the huge potential benefits. Based on population alone, a unified Korea would be a total population of 75 millions. Which would be bigger than all the UK. So I do think in the long run, both countries and the region and the world would be better off unified. We must understand that unification of Korea Peninsula is a long-term reconciliation process, and the first important step toward unification begins with building trust with North Korea. Besides providing critical humanitarian assistance, I believe Korea needs also to start thinking about finding ways to engage and cooperate with North Korea on issues of common interest that can mutually beneficial in the long run, and that can slowly build trust between our two countries. To such areas that I can think of are health and environment. A health economy needs health people. And one of the things Korea successed early in its development was investing in the health of the people. With the help of foreign assistance, Korea was able to drastically reduce the incidence of parasitic worms, which could have a debilitating effect on people's health. Simple intervention like parasitic medicine helped to stop infections and improve people's health. This was followed by efforts by supply cleaning, water, and sanitation, which helped to eradicate incidences of parasites altogether. The same can be said of Korea's reforestation effort of the 1970s. Most people assumed that the trees covering Korea's mountains naturally grew out of the ground, when in fact the trees you see today in Korea were in direct efforts of the government and its people to replant trees 40 years ago. When considering that trees are a vital source of clean air and water and help to prevent floods, the environmental impact is immeasurable. Many of these interventions are simple and cost-effective with huge payoffs in the long run. They can be mutually beneficial and help build trust, and can do a lot to lay the foundation for unification. Most importantly, Korea is know-how and a track record based on its own development experience to ensure success. In the absence of political dialogue, it is important for Korea to work together with the civil societies and NGOs and the international community in building a framework for engagement and long-term reconciliation to promote trust-building exchanges and cooperation with North Korea. And I want to conclude by ending with a Chinese proverb. One must dig a well before getting trust. Now is the time for Korea and its people to act before it is too late in securing a sustainable path that can bring hope, prosperity, and security for all. There are challenging times in Korea, but I have no doubt that Korea can overcome these challenges time with the right leadership and policies and hard work and determination. The nation and its people have done it before, and we can do it again. Okay, I would like to end my lecture with a short video clip about Korea's potential areas, visions for a better tomorrow. Okay, thank you for your attention.
Now I'd like to invite questions from the audience, and Professor Ra is going to interpret to ensure that there is a smooth understanding and communication of questions and answers. So if you'd like to come up here and perhaps join the chairs here.
Virtually all the wealthier countries in the world. And
물론 세계가 공통적으로 직면하는 문제에 대해서는 우리가 먼저 선진국이 경험한 것에 대해서는 우리가 많은 배울 점을 우리가 시사하는 것을 우리가 빨리 배워야 된다. 그래서 똑같은 선진국의 실수를 하지 말아야 된다. 네. 그리고 우리는 한국이 갖고 있는 고유한 그 문제가 있는데 그 문제들이 지금 이 사회 갈등의 문제가 크기 때문에 사회 갈등의 문제를 해결하고 사회를 통합의 이 세계로 간다면 한국은 새로운 도약을 할 수 있을 것 같아요. 경제적인 측면에서는 맞는 얘기라고 네. 바로바로 통역을 하시죠. 다 할까요, 제가? 다 한꺼번에 하시겠어요? 아니면? 네. 경제적인 측면에서는 민주화가 되기 전에 이 경제 발전은 굉장히 빠르지만 네. 민주화가 된 나라는 경제 발전이 굉장히 느렸던 게 우리 역사적인 사례라고요. 아까 제가 지적을 했듯이 노인 인구가 증가한다든지 예. 또 각 그 노인 인구가 증가됨에 따라서 사회적 비용이 많이 드는 것은 예. 벌써 이미 선진국이 경험을 해나갈 거로 보기 때문에 우리나라 급격한 노인화에 따라서 이 문제가 굉장히 우리한테 시사하는 바가 클 거다. 그런 측면에서 지금 통일이 단기적으로는 굉장히 좀 경제적인 측면이나 여러 가지 측면에서 어려움을 갖고 올지 모르지만 장기적으로는 앞으로 통일에 대한 어떤 그 기대가 우리나라를 발전시키는데 큰 도움이 될 거다.
Yes, I want to ask a follow-up question on the North issue. If you look at your lecture, you seem to be saying that there will be an implicit benefit to Korea from expanding the population, which have been splitting up more than they've been coming together in recent past. Do you anticipate, because of that uniqueness of that situation, that you could expect the international community in some way to provide assistance to you in that process? Or do you feel that you will be forced, condemned, expected to incur all the economic costs of that process yourselves?
네, 굉장히 어려운 질문이라고. 지금 우리 대통령도 통일이 대박이라고 얘기를 했는데 그 의미에는 국제적인 정세가 굉장히 그 통일에 보탬을 주는 역할을 할 것이다 하는 기대를 갖고 있다고요. 예, 특히 그 미국이나 일본은 물론이겠지만 그 중국이 어떠한 입장을 취하느냐가 굉장히 우리의 그 통일에 굉장한 중요한 영향을 미칠 거다 이렇게 본다고요. 그래서 그 저희들이 볼 때는 그 통일 비용에 대해서는 그 국제 정세에 대한 비용에 대해서는 우리가 예측할 수가 없지만 그런 가정을 좀 전제를 조금 놔두고 통일 자체에 대한 두 나라의 그 했을 때는 통일이 엄청난 대박으로 갈 거다 하는 것이 일반적인 전망이다. 한국에서요. 통일이 됐을 때 그 갈등의 문제를 지금 질문을 하셨는데 우선 거기서 우리가 장점은 우리가 단일 민족이라 그런 점에서는 생각을 공유하는데 굉장히 쉽게 접근할 가능성이 있다는 점이고요. 다만 가장 큰 문제는 두 가지라고 보는데 하나는 이념적 갈등을 어떻게 해결할 거냐 하는 문제고 두 번째는 경제적 격차를 어떻게 해결하느냐 이 두 가지 문제를 또 하겠습니다. 또 한 가지는 그 통일 비용과 그 경제적 격차를 줄이기 위해서 중요한 것이 지금 우리 대통령이 얘기하는 그 통일 프로세스, 신뢰 프로세스 정책이 있는데 그래서 핵을 포기하면 한국이 많은 교류와 지원을 아끼지 않겠다는 것이 그 핵심인데 이것이 신뢰로만 바탕이가 된다고 한다면 저는 그런 지원과 교류를 통해서 그런 경제적 격차를 해소해 나가면서 통일이 이루어진다고 그런다면 많은 통일 비용을 절약할 수 있을 거라고 봅니다. 지금의 그 박근혜 정부는 금년에 또 통일준비위원회를 구성을 해서 앞으로 통일이 됐을 때 법과 제도 문제라든지 이런 걸 준비하고 있고 또 심지어는 그 금융 부분까지도 지금 준비를 해나가고 있다고요. 그래서 통일이 됐을 때 여러 가지 시나리오가 있는데 그 시나리오별로 지금 많은 준비를 해나가고 있다고요.
I've listened to what you've said, and I listened to what the South Korean government says about unification.
Okay.
And it's very interesting. But if I was sitting in Pyongyang, if I was part of the elite in Pyongyang, there's nothing in it for me that I can see. And this has always been the problem, that North Korea and South Korea put out proposals for unification with no prospect whatsoever.
그러니까 북한에서는 그런 것을 당연히 고민할 것으로 생각이 된다고요. 근데 이제 같이 지금 이것을 유지할 때 이제 어떤 방법으로 통일이 되냐에 대한 방법에서 여러 가지가 문제를 찾을 수 있을 거라고 본다고요. 그것까지 하고 또 얘기하겠습니다. 그래서 이게 통일이라는 게 바로 한순간에 이루어진다고 한다면 지금 바로 통일이 이루어진다면 그건 아마 최악의 시나리오일 거라고 저희들은 생각한다. 그래서 그 정권을 하나를 무너뜨리고 이것을 한다는 이런 개념을 좀 떠나서 먼저 두 칸츄리가 서로 여러 가지의 교류 또는 경제적인 격차를 해소해 나가면서 나중에 그것은 제일 마지막에 논의될 문제라고 본다고.
Do you think if Japan is a partner or potential threat ultimately? And if it's a partner, which area do you think the two countries?
한국과 일본과는 전통적으로 물론 아픈 과거가 있지만 두 나라는 파트너라고요. 지금 현재는 왜 난 그 질문을 하신 게 최근에 그 아베 정권과 우리 현 그 박근혜 정부 간에 여러 가지 좀 갈등이 있는 것 같아서 그걸 물어보는 게 아닌가 하는데 거기에 초점이 구태여 지금 파트너가 아니라고 얘기를 할 수 있는 측면이 있다면 그것은 아마 과거의 역사에 대한 인식에 대해서 양국 간인지 양국의 정상 간인지 거기에 대해서 좀 차이가 있는 점이라고. 그 아픈 그 과거에 대해서 지금 중국도 물론이지만 중국과 한국은 그 일본의 그 아픈 과거에 일본의 당한 아픈 과거에 대해서 일본이 진정성 있는 그 사과를 원하는데 아직 그 관계가 거기까지 지금 도달하지 못한 것 같다고요.
Other large enterprises in the Korean economy. I'm wondering what has their response been to the proposed policies and reforms, socioeconomic reforms And furthermore, under the Park Geun-hye administration, what is the envisioned role of chaebols and other 대기업 in achieving?
우리나라가 경제가 발전할 때 보면 그 어떤 균형 성장을 추구하지 않고 박근혜 여태까지 우리나라의 그 성장 정책은 좀 불균형 성장의 측면이 있다고요. 그래서 그 큰 기업들을 먼저 지원해줘서 우선 그 큰 기업들이 그 경제적인 어떤 롤을 할 수 있는 그러한 성장 모델을 우리는 갖게 됐다고요. 그래서 처음 성장할 때는 재벌이 그런 역할을 했지만 이제 어떤 경제 규모가 이렇게 커진 뒤에는 이제 재벌의 행태에 대한 많은 비판들이 나오게 됐다고요. 예를 들면 대기업들은 많은 협력업체들을 갖게 되는데 그 협력업체들에 대해서 예컨대 가격이 올랐을 때 그 가격의 전가를 협력업체에다 다 한다든지 또는 그 어떤 그 가격의 상승 요인에 대해서 그 재벌은 책임 안 지고 협력업체 모두 부담하는 이러한 그 행태에 대해서 많은 비판이 나오게 돼요. 그래서 예를 들면 2012년 대통령 선거 때도 이 문제가 가장 큰 그 공약의 이슈 중에 하나였는데 박근혜 대통령 후보가 소위 경제 민주화라는 캐치프레이즈를 갖고 먼저 이 문제를 해결해 나가겠다고 얘기를 했고 실제로 대통령이 된 후에 많은 지금 법률안이 경제 민주화 관련 법안이 지금 많이 통과가 돼 있다고요. 그래서 예전과 같은 재벌의 행태는 많이 그 제약을 받게 됐다. 아주 그 사실이라고요. 예. 근데 그 이념적 갈등이 그동안 그 경제 발전 과정에서는 없었지만 그게 한 70년대 후반부터 이러한 이념적 갈등의 고리가 점점 커졌다고요. 제가 알기로도 유럽에 특히 독일 같은 나라가 1990년대에 이런 경제적인 측면에서의 그 좀 진보와 보수의 문제로서 대두된 적이 있다고요. 경제적인 측면에서. 우리 한국도 이미 이 문제를 한 번은 거쳐야 된다고 한다면 저는 제 생각은 빠른 이런 갈등 기간을 좀 되도록이면 짧은 기간 내에 사회 갈등이 해결돼 가는 방향으로 가기를 원한다고요. 이 갈등이 길면 길수록 거기에 대한 코스트가 많이 들기 때문에 우리 경제적인 측면에서는 성장이냐 복지냐의 문제로 갈등이 나타나고요. 이런 사회 갈등의 현상이 경제적인 측면에서는 성장이냐 또는 분배 또는 복지냐의 이런 문제의 큰 이슈화가 되고 있지만 그렇지만 이념적으로 공산주의를 다시 추구하는 그런 것은 우리 국민들이 용납하지 않을 거예요.
Drinks and there will be some slight refreshments. But for the moment, I'd like to first of all thank Professor Ra for having very ably acted as interpreter and facilitating this question and answer session. And in particular, thank Dr. Jung for his illuminating talk and for having dealt very patiently with a wide range of questions on a lot of difficult topics. Thank you very much.
Interest and support for Korea. Okay, thank you so much.
좀
빨리 읽었는데
좋았습니다.
개성이라는 아세요? 개성에 우리가 거기 인더스트리도 있어요. 그래서 그런 교류를 서로 믿고서 나중에 격차도 다르고 이러니까 이런 문화 교류나 체육 교류 같이 하고 같이 그건 알았어요. 통일을 하지 말자. 뭔가 페이버를 좀 줘야.
Let's go. Thank you very much.